You're listening to Around Comics. 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 Comics.
You are listening to Around Comics, episode 430, Trade Talks, All-Star Superman, Volume 1, volume 1, right? I guess it's Volume 1 and 2, technically.
Volume 1 and 2, but it is a 12-issue limited series.
12-issue maxi series, by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, the wonderful Superman. What's happening, fellas? I know we're all excited to jump into All-Star Superman. We've been reading it and talking about it and
loving it,
caressing it, and
making the feel good sounds with it.
It's like one of those things where when it came out, people are like, "Oh, this is like an instant classic," and then as time has gone by, it's like, "Oh wait, like yeah, actually,
you're right."
Like, oh wait, like.
This time it was
will
true.
Be a thing that like lasts for a long time. That like it will have like a resonating influence for a long time. Where it's like it's weird, right? Because like so much of like there's such a rush to like mark things as important or like this is like a seminal thing, and now like. People did that at the time, and now as time has passed, it's like, oh yeah, actually yes, that is correct.
Actually, you were not completely full of shit.
This time it worked.
It's like, oh my god, yeah, you're right. This, as like my own life has changed from the first time I've read this to like having kids and like maturing in my own life. Like how I look
feeling your own mortality.
Yeah, and like yeah, exactly. And like looking at this story, like, oh my god, like you like this is even more resonant and like deeper than it was when I read it before in my like when I was younger. Like it's hard to make one of those things, and they did it.
When I was young.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, like I made the mistake of reading the issue where he goes back to visit Pa Kent on the train into work one day, and I was like tearing up because I haven't read it in a while. Now that I am a dad, I was like, oh, Grant Morrison, you softy. You Mr.
Son of a bitch, Grant Morrison.
You
made me cry in public.
Mr. Everyone, like, oh, this guy is so deep and like complicated, and it's like you're a softie. You're just like, you're just like.
This is absolutely Grant Morrison. Like, it's a love letter, right? Like, I mean, this is a love letter to Superman. This is a love letter to sort of the Silver Age Superman. Actually, Golden Age, Silver Age. He's able to sort of combine things so well in this, and yet it doesn't feel dated. It's incredibly modern. It's futuristic. It's a wonder why, like, it's not complicated. It's not a bunch of complicated. I mean, they're very well written stories.
Yeah,
but it's like, why don't more people write Superman this way?
Yeah, I think that's his point.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it's sort of what he's trying to do.
I was thinking about it before we started tonight that, I was thinking about New X-Men, which I think we all really enjoyed and loved that run that Morrison did on X-Men. But I think in that a lot of the purpose, at least in that first volume, was I'm going to shed all of the baggage that has been heaped onto this comic, and we're going to start new, right? And we're going to go in this very new direction and kind of scrape away the past. And then you have this book, which is I'm going to put my arms around the past and hold it tight to me. It is a love letter, and so very different approach, and I think they both work well, but in for different reasons, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculously compassionate. Is like everything about All-Star Superman is about just like Superman being kind, and like characters being kind, in like every moment where like someone could do something awful, actually like the thing you should do is be nice, right? And like it's such like a twist on sort of the way we look at like Silver Age stuff. Is like Silver Age stuff reads so like Superman's mean because like it's so weird, like the situations he finds himself in, like to our modern eyes feels so like he's like being mean. Like, why would you do that to Jimmy Olsen? Why would you do these things? Why would you have these robots to do these jokes, right? And like, but that's not how people saw it at the time, and it's not how Grant Morrison sees it, obviously, and Frank Whiteley, like they obviously stripped that away to get back to that sense of like, it's actually Superman could solve all these problems like in the snap of his finger, right? Like he could do anything he wants, like super fast, but like he chooses to be compassionate and to be nice and to like do the thing that's harder, to like help people, right? And that's so like resonant, like over the years has become even more like profound to me, of like the idea that Superman could solve all these things like immediately. Like he doesn't need to take all this time all the time, but he wants Lex to be a good guy. He wants like
there's good inside you.
Yeah, he wants like the best resolution for everything.
He wants that Star Eater to live its best life.
Yeah, he doesn't want he doesn't want the easy solution to everything. Like he knows like he chooses the harder path for everything. And
I think he also, he realizes like, as incredibly powerful as he is, he can't always fix everything. He can't always be everywhere. He does have to sort of choose to some degree. And I love, like the first issue in it, is kind of a throwback to him on the farm. He's young, and Pa Kent is like, what are the odds? Why did you come to us? Like, what are the chances you fall from the stars and you land in our field? Like, what are the chances of that happening? Why did that happen? Everything happens for a reason, but why that? And it's like, well, we all know why. We all know why. And then he goes on to show you why for 11 more issues, of like the difference between him and then later on all the other characters that he comes across, and how they weren't raised by two really good people that thought about other people and empathized with people and
kindness.
Kindly
couple.
Yeah, just having like compassion for other people, and like every opportunity to be like, I'm going to use my power to vanquish you is instead like, I'm going to use my power to teach you a lesson about how you should use your own.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, you were talking about how he could fix everything, but that's it's kind of the core of it, is this relationship between Superman and Luthor. That is kind of all the way through it. And like Lex thinks that he can fix humanity, and Superman thinks that he can help humanity be better, right? Yeah. And that's two very different things. It's fixing them by force or helping them where you can, right?
It's a challenge, right? It's like, Lex, can you do the hard thing,
the harder path,
and help people? Because that's harder than like what you do now. What you do now is you think you can solve everything, but like in that issue, the interview where Superman just wants Lex to be good. Just like this is your opportunity to say like, you know what, I'm going to be the good guy. And he just wants him to do that. And that's the time we see him get angry, is like Lex refuses to just like, I'll be the good guy and I'll protect people once Superman's gone. And like, I'll just like do those things. And like, that's the time we see Superman get angry, is that he can't get Lex to just like be good, even though he knows it's in him, you know, like he sees that potential.
Did you love the juxtaposition in that whole interview scene where it's the frumpish, you know, Clark, who really is the strongest one there, and this like, you know, kind of like man-child bravado.
It's so what Frank Quitely does
right
in these issues is so awesome. Like how he makes Superman feels so big. Whenever you see Superman, he feels huge, but he feels not scary. But also Clark Kent feels just as huge and feels like
pathetic,
oafish.
Yeah.
It's just so like, it's such a incredible thing that they made, like these 12 issues that like, and I haven't read it in a couple years, and maybe it's just me being like an old softy now that I have kids. Having read it, where I was like, damn, like this is like it's pretty incredible. Like just like the thing they made, like just like
as a work,
where I'm just
something
like,
you can pull off the shelf and
I was like,
anytime.
Just like killed it on this thing.
It artistically, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like issue after issue. Chris, you had said it when we were chatting, like the issue with where he goes to prison to interview Lex. That entire issue is just like a tour de force of what you can possibly do in a comic book page.
How to make comics.
Oh my God, it's everything you could possibly want. And Quitely's just, he's unbelievable. And like, you know, we talked about before, the idea that he's one of the few artists that is good enough that, you know, the body shape, the design, everything is the same between Superman and Clark Kent. He doesn't make them any smaller, but he makes them look smaller. He makes them look like believable, that he could hide in this persona, in this alter ego, you know, just slumping his shoulders and sort of his body language. And one of the things
that's able to do that, right?
He's one of the few, I think. But one of the things I love so much about this, and it was not that it was a gag, but they did it over and over again, was whenever Clark was was around, something would happen and he would sort of trip and fall, but inadvertently he's saving someone, or he's stopping someone from doing something.
He's stopping Lex from getting electrocuted.
Yeah,
he's stopping the guy from shoot. Like, even in those moments, Superman is like saving Lex. He just wants Lex to, like, he sees the potential for Lex to be something better than what he is, and he just wants Lex to be that. And like, I mean, that issue, like, the thing that is amazing about these 12 issues is there's like multiple issues within these 12 issues where you're like, that's maybe one of the best things I've read.
Right.
Like, you know, there's that one. There's the one about Superman going back to see his dad, and like, which is just like an amazing single issue. There's issue 10, which is essentially about the idea that like a world without Superman would just invent Superman, which is just such like both like a, like, one of the things I love about this is like, a lot of times when we talk about like Grant Morrison stuff, you talk about like, oh, it's such a high level, heady stuff. But like, what makes All-Star Superman so cool is that it's grounded in such like true emotional stuff. Like real, like, there's something emotional about the idea that like Superman, the idea of Superman coming to save you, whether it's the girl who's going to jump off the building, or Superman figures out how to use the Kryptonians in Kandor to save those kids. You know, like there's something about that is both fantastical and just like super emotional. And
do you think that it was kind of that perfect marriage of Morrison's weirdness?
This issue that's also like, someone could be like, that's the best issue of a comic book I've ever read. I'd be like, yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of those in this round.
Right.
Like, yeah, you might be right. That might be one of the Lois Lane going to the Fortress of Solitude issue is so incredible because it's such like a great story about someone being scared of Superman, kind of, in a way.
And I wanted to bring this up because, in reading it again, I was thinking about other things outside of just the stories itself, and just sort of some of the things that Morrison and Quietly were kind of saying in this book. And 2 of the things that stuck out to me, and I think they relate to one another, is the idea that Superman is misunderstood, and that most people, even good people, can't quite comprehend Superman's goodness. And it's like Lois in this issue, she starts to think that Superman has some sort of evil plan, and she can't believe that he's Clark Kent. She can't believe that he would hide himself, that he would be Clark Kent. She starts to think that he brought her here. And obviously there's another element where, she gets that gas, kind of makes her paranoid, but that's still there. Like, she doesn't understand.
That's very Silver Agey. That's very like.
But then the other thing I was thinking was like, that issue with Lex makes so much sense of like, he's this, he's maybe the smartest man on the planet, but he can't tell that Superman is Clark Kent. And it's his hubris, because he couldn't possibly fathom that someone could have that kind of power and just hide behind Clark Kent. And so
it couldn't be the scientist's son.
Yeah.
Like in one of the later issues where he's like, yeah, I am my father's son, where maybe I watch more than I act. Right? Like the idea that someone could be so powerful and have humility and like not be like obsessed with that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's that's what makes it so great.
Do you think it was a perfect marriage for Morrison to be able to use some really out there crazy Silver Age ideas, like Morrison with the Bottle City? It's
Well,
I mean,
what
perfect,
he
right?
does with all that Silver Age stuff is so cool, in that he grounds it in like a true emotional space, where he's like, everything Superman inspires the Kryptonians of Kandor to be heroes in like a way that like they weren't before.
Yeah, curing
right?
cancer.
Like it's like, oh my god, like and the way they do that, which can seem so trite and so lame and so sort of like has like such a gut punch when it's like, actually, in that issue 10, Superman figures out how to maximize everything. Like he is like, why didn't I think of this before? Even Superman admits his own like weakness, that he was like, I should have seen this before, that we could use them to do this. I mean, like that issue 10 is such like, it's such a combination of being so high-minded but also like grounded in like real emotional stuff, that when you read it, you're like, oh, that's like, I don't know, like I feel that I like the emotion of that issue of like what Superman means, like still hits me, and it probably hits me more than I did when I first read it, where I was probably more thinking about the high-minded stuff than I was like now that I'm older and I'm sort of like, oh, like I get that, like this idea of someone like, what do I leave behind, and like how do I leave it? Like,
what is my legacy, right? Like, what is?
Yeah.
Have I accomplished enough?
It's like, God damn, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, you like, and it's so incredible because, like I said before, like Superman has so much baggage, right? He's got all these Silver Age things that people think are lame, and I don't know if you guys read the Chip Kidd introduction to the Absolute Edition.
Yeah.
He explains it. He's like, somehow these guys found a way to bring all this stuff in and make it resonate and make it like meaningful. And you're just like, oh my God, like I get this. That when those Kryptonians try and take over and he sends them to the Phantom Zone and Superman shows them a moment of like compassion when he could crush them and instead shows them what they could be and they grab it, you know, and they're like, oh my God, this is what I could be. Like that is so powerful. But it's also tied into such a, what many people consider a lame Silver Age type story.
Yeah.
But they find a way to tell that story in a way that's just like, oh, like that like resonates with me.
Yeah. You know, Morrison has talked, if Sal, you could bring up the cover to issue 1, and he's talked about how that drawing that Quietly did, I think before they decided it was the cover or whatever, he was drawing things out, and how that was kind of the inspiration for their version of Superman. It's not the strapping, hands on hip, powerful pose. It's Superman sitting on a hill, quietly contemplating. It's like someone that you could walk up and sit next to
on a cloud, I think.
Yeah. So guys, I have to ask you, having reread this, what is the moment within because like this brings it up, like what's the thing that you read it that, because here's the thing, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely are awesome at also being like, this is an awesome idea, this thing we're going to have on one page that just exists, that's not like a major moment, but like this is rad what we're doing right here. Like this like because they do it all the time in all 12 issues, where it's like, this is like Superman playing fetch with Crypto, where they're like throwing trees into space and they're sitting on the moon, is just rad. That's just like a cool, like, just like embracing what they are, moment that happens so much in this series. Like,
which moment? Which
like
one?
a thing, like just a little thing that you're like, oh, that's cool. Like,
I'm more on the gag side. I think that Jimmy Olsen in a dress is a great moment.
Jimmy, that whole issue is so great because it's awesome that Superman's afraid of dying.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. And like Jimmy Olsen, like the turn could be Jimmy Olsen's going to crush him, but he sets the reminder on his watch to wake him up from being Doomsday, and that's all it takes. Like it's such like such a cool moment. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like any of these 12 issues, someone could be like, that's like the best comic I've read, and I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. Or like when he defeats the dinosaur dudes, right? I love that issue, and he brings them back down, and the dad of the dinosaur guy is like, yeah, I don't know why he did that. Samson convinced him to do it, and like Superman's got to deal with these two dudes, Samson, who he could just beat, but he's got to like deal with, right? And it's such like a Silver Age issue, right? Like how do I
was going to ask the dinosaur men. I mean, is that a Silver Age story?
I'm sure they showed up somewhere, but like just the idea of like, I got to deal with these two dudes. Like they still find like a way for Superman to be like, because when he answers the Sphinx's question, it's not like Superman knows that's the right answer. he's like, this is my answer. And it's like, yeah, that's right. You know, like that's, I don't know. There's something about that like shade of that, how he answers it, that I'm always like, that's great. You know, it's
amazing. This was a sequence that stuck out to me, and it's just a little moment, but it's one of those little things where it's like Lois and Superman, you know, come into Metropolis and Krull's tearing the city apart, and then Samson picks him up and throws him into outer space.
through the ISS.
Yeah, through this International Space Station. But then in this panel right here, he's like, Krull's lungs just burst. So he recognizes the fact that, you know, this was such overkill. You didn't need to throw the guy into fucking space. And then he flies up there and he comes back and brings him down and then brings him home. And it's that sort of compassion where these two other idiots, they don't even care. They don't think about that. You know, they have no concern about that whatsoever. And it's just, that's the difference between, you know, Atlas and Samson and Superman. You can be a strong man. That doesn't make you a Superman.
Well, you know, Tom talked about him taking the hard path. Like you said, he could have taken them out at any point, but he's taking the hard path, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sal, that's such a great point about like just the compassion of like, you can be as strong as you want, right? I mean, that's so great about like when he gets super pumped with the sun's energy, is they talk about it's not just his strength, it's his compassion. It's like everything about him is like super juiced,
amplified.
That includes his like, he's like, he doesn't want to hurt anyone. He just and he goes so out of his way to like not do that. I mean, it's dope.
The other pages, I think a couple that really stuck with me was the one where he's sort of sitting in a chair in his fortress dictating his last Human Testaments. Like that was really, and like I said, as a 51-year-old who, you know, to be completely honest, like I'm on the downward slope of my life, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is like, there's, you know, everyone faces that, even Superman.
Yeah.
But then the last page, and I want to pull it out because I think it's a cool page. Hold on. I hate going back and forth between this.
Do you guys have a favorite page?
I don't know. I didn't really think about it in that way, but I wanted, like, I love the last page, or at least the last one. Let's see. Not the last page.
Project 2.
This page, though.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, one, just the idea, you know, the sort of the aesthetic of it, the sort of Man from Tomorrow aesthetic, but also the idea that, you know, and Lois says it on the page before, it's like, he'll be back when he's done, Jimmy. And when he's done, he knows where to find me. And it's like, he's in the sun building a heart. You know what I mean? Like he's got work to do. And
because of course that's what he's doing. And it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of course that's what Superman's doing. And so that page certainly, I love that it ended sort of like that. You know, there's the bit of an epilogue with that, but you know, that idea, I think more than anything, of just like, Lois knows who he is and knows that he's alive and knows what he's doing and he's got stuff to do. And like I said, of course that's what he's doing.
Yeah, the first page I love because it's Superman's origin in what four panels.
Yeah,
it's just perfect. The intro.
My favorite singular moment is when that girl in the Lex issue, who's the one who's leading Clark Kent from underneath the prison, tells Lex that he doesn't have his eyebrows.
Yes.
What the hell was that? I didn't understand
such a
that.
Lex moment because Lex is so vain.
Yes.
Yeah.
That he can't he can't
That's his niece, right? Isn't that Lex's niece?
That's his niece, yeah.
He's so vain. Lex is everything that's bad about humanity. and Superman's everything that's good about him. Like all they can, Lex is vain, and
that page with
like,
the Superman monkey. Jesus,
yeah, and
Lex.
all Lex can do is like think about everything he thinks he could do. Like, I could do this or I could do that, and Superman's like, you're gonna have 3 weeks to
Do it. Why don't
it.
you do it? Yeah.
Like, I know there's good in you. Like,
where did he lose his eyebrow?
I tried to find it. I couldn't find the panel. So somewhere.
It was such an odd, like, non sequitur in some ways of like, why does he not have eyebrows?
Alopecia.
He just has alopecia. So, and then he draws it, but it goes back to like in the beginning, and he's talking about the Superman swoosh, the sort of men trim their eyebrows to be like Superman's, and
yes.
And then he draws on his own. So
yeah, what an eyebrow talk in that episode.
It's again, amazing in that, like, having reread it, the issue where he goes back to say goodbye to his dad is so, like, such a well done single issue of a comic.
Because I had read it before and I forgot the punchline, you know what I mean? Like, I forgot the payoff. And when I read it again, I was like, oh shit, that's like, right. I remembered it, but it was also just like this.
God damn you guys, you fucking got me. Like,
which we had actually seen. We had seen that Superman earlier, right?
Yeah.
He talks to Lois.
And he, like, they still set it up. And the part where the bandaged Superman's just like hanging out,
just standing there, right?
Standing there, like, just like shooting the shit with the dad,
right here,
like hanging out, is like, and then when you get the payoff, and you're like, oh, like, because it's all about, like, maybe I'll get emotional talking about this because I've had a few drinks, right? But it's about, like, when the younger Superman doesn't recognize what's happening, and he's in such a rush to, like,
well, I think that's every child, right? Like, isn't it just speaks to you as I lost my father when I was 24 years old, 23.
Yeah.
And all you think about for years after that sort of a thing is, what didn't I say? Was he proud of me? Did I tell him I loved him? You know what I mean? So, like, it's him making up for that mistake of not being there that last moment, knowing that he can't save him, but just being able to spend that last moment with him, how important that is to him now that he's facing
his own mortality.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn, Grant Morrison, you son of a bitch, Frank Quitely. You guys, how'd you do this? Tom, who read this before he had kids and was like, this is good. And now that I have kids, I'm like, I'm on the train reading this. Like, my eyes are tearing up because I'm like, oh, I get, like all Superman has created this elaborate situation to go back and just, like, see his dad. And you're right, Sal, about the thing about, like, I kind of, for the way they set it up is, like, the cool thing is what they do is they let you, even though you know the end, they set it up so that you can kind of forget the end.
Yeah. They're I mean, that's why he's wearing bandages, and it's like, you're thinking about Mitzelplick. Why is Mitzelplick? Like, that's what I'm like.
Yeah.
And you have this whole other story of this.
Always read it for the first time again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, that's a very Silver Age twist, right? Like,
absolutely,
to the end of a thing. And it's like, but by doing that, they give you permission every time you read it to have that same, like, gut punch, like, sort of like, oh, like, he just, like, he now recognizes as he's ending his own mortality, like, I want to go back and, like, that 3 minutes that the Chronovore stole from me and my dad, I'm now going to have that moment.
I'm going to get that back. And the other two things I love about that issue is, one, he's bandaged up because he knows he can't let his father know it's him, but he still gets to have that moment. He can't save his father. He can't change the future. He knows that. And also, the other two Supermen are like, yeah, of course we'll help you with this.
Yeah.
Of course we want you to see your father one last time, and
Yeah.
so we'll go back in time. And it's just like
Superman creates a legacy of compassion. Right, like all the other Supermen are built around like, I will do the thing that helps somebody, and like that's what Superman becomes, is like, as far into the future as you want to go, is like that's what he's about.
So Nick Lindsay is on the YouTube chat here, and he's posted a few things I want to get our feedback on, because he's it seems like he's new to the YouTube and but has been a listener to the podcast. So I think this is the first time he's actually seen our mug.
I hope we didn't disappoint you too badly.
He may go back to podcasts only.
Yeah, he may have logged off.
Yeah. But he has. You guys notice people outside of the U.S. have the best perspective of what Superman symbolizes for society. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I can't say I've noticed that. Not that I mean, but it's interesting to think, that Superman is sort of the ideal of what the American dream is supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think that's a good statement. That I think people from outside of the United States that may not be as cynical as people that live here.
And I think that's where the compassion comes in, right?
Yeah.
Of like, Superman wants everyone to be happy, and he wants everyone and he is trying to I mean, the choice that they make in all of these stories is like, it's so interesting, right? Like the times where Superman not gives in, but the times when Superman uses his power to do something, right? Like where it's like, I'm going to crush Toy Man's like giant robot, because like this is like taking too much time away from me doing other things that are important, like there's such a recognition, I guess, like, which I would need to think more about the idea of like power versus like compassion, and being like, there are times when I could just do what I want whenever I want to, versus like the thing that I think was actually better and actually kinder to you is to like display like a better type of behavior, which seems so lame and so simple, but is actually probably like the healthier thing in life to like show to someone, is like, I would rather show you like the nicer way to be.
It's a battle of ego. It's a battle. I mean, to relate it to something that I can relate it to, which would be jujitsu. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 240 pounds, and there's lots of times where I might be sparring with someone that's a lot lighter than me, and certainly I can just outmuscle someone. I could just use my strength, my size, and smash somebody. But what does that accomplish? What is it? It's not helping them. It's not really helping me. It just strokes my ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they might be better than me technically, and I might, lose to someone that's smaller than me if I don't use my strength. But that is really more of a victory. Yeah. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to get better technically, that kind of a thing. And I think it's ego. Superman doesn't have an ego. He doesn't,
the thing that makes him so like interesting, right? Is like their version of Superman so egoless.
Yeah.
So like not the thing that
like almost Christ-like.
Yeah. But also like not the thing that makes it harkens back, and that's what I think like makes issue 10 so incredible. Is about it harkens back to what makes Superman like the fundamental thing so important, is that egolessness, of like, there is someone in the universe who will do good to do good. And the idea of that is so powerful. and so like,
well, I think, I mean,
resonant.
Tom, if you think about it from the perspective of like, why is Superman, he's created by these two Jewish kids in 1938, and yet has survived all this time and has been this paragon of, truth and justice and all those things. And it's like, well, you had these two kids that were growing up in the 1930s in New York. They were, I'm sure they were, oppressed to a certain degree. That you're watching the world, you're watching Germany, extinguish your race and that kind of thing. And they were bullied and subjugated, all these things. And they create this character that has the power to change that and to fight back.
Yeah.
And
the ultimate immigrant.
It's powerful.
It really is. But I think the part of that power is just like, in some way we all feel like, there is a certain right and wrong, right? Like like using your power unjustly, we all have an innate sense like that is wrong. Not everyone, but I think most people do. And I think that's why Superman is so powerful still. No matter what people think, like no matter, people think he's lame or whatever it is, it's like there's something there about just the fundamental thing of like someone with the strength to fight a bully. And that's what Superman is. He has the power to defeat any bully, but he doesn't use it to become a bully. And that's the, too many people I think we see, and you said it's more poignant now than ever because we see so many people with power that are bullies, that don't use it to protect anyone, that don't use it to fight the good.
And it's applauded.
And it is, and it's something nowadays that is very much, heralded of like, in this weird culture that we live in. It's like if you're a billionaire, you obviously have all the answers, or you know what I mean, or if you're super famous, you're infallible, and it's like that's so insane. Like that's not use your power for good.
There's good in you.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the thing that is really great about All-Star Superman is like a reassertion of why Superman is important. And like that issue 10, for as high-minded as it is like an assertion of like Superman is why this exists. Like why like superheroes exist, and why do we even love the idea of heroes, and why do we why are we attracted to them? Like they tell a story about like reasserting that reality of like, listen, if you lived in a world if we lived in a world without Superman, you'd invent a Superman. Because you need that. Someone needs to believe in that, like that high-minded ideal. And that's like, it's powerful.
Yeah. I love
and
the Earth Q thing where it's like, yes, Superman will exist if you let things progress naturally. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, again, they find a way to like make it not lame.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the Bizarro?
It was
so funny because it's so like, because like the thing is, it's such a great joke about Bizarro, but in the end, they still find a way to make it about Bizarro still carries Superman to the fucking rocket. He still saves him. Bizarro could take that moment to be like, I'm going to escape. But instead, in that moment, inspired by Superman,
he becomes more like Superman.
Becomes more like more like Superman. And Bizarro and all his like lame ass like Like, I get it, dude. You're not like, it's a joke, right? Zabaro's a joke. It's so Zabaro's such a funny joke about like, right?
But
Like,
has there ever been a Bizarro issue where the Bizarro dialogue is better written?
oh no, you're right. You're right.
It's so incredibly well written, where you have to kind of take a little time sometimes to study what he's saying.
I was a little high when I was reading that issue,
Oh,
and
it
took a little while to get through that one.
Sal, you're right. That is a killer job of the consistency of it, and
Yes.
like the way, like it's like, oh, I get. And Superman figures it out kind of at the same time you do.
Yeah. Right.
As the
You're like,
reader,
what
I'm
did
like,
he say?
oh, yeah, like it's great. The Bizarro is such a great joke of the Bizarro. And he could just be a joke, but they still find a way in the end. He's
It's
a
tragic.
hero.
He's a
Yeah.
sad character. I mean,
Yeah.
he's very sad. You know, it's like he's trapped in this world. He's you know, the only normal or abnormal.
But now
it's
he knows
another.
how to talk Bizarro.
Well, and it's another sort of like harkening back to the origin of Superman, of like a person out of their place, a person that feels out of
like we all do.
Like, yeah, we're all misfits and weirdos, and we don't fit in, and like that's
But still, in the end, Zabarro, in that moment where he could take the opportunity, where you feel like, oh, he's gonna try and escape, he helps Superman escape. Like there's something about the way they structure all those stories about, like, they give all these characters their moments to like be heroes, and inspired by Superman, like from the Kryptonians that show up to like, they always like, they find like a really cool way to be like, Superman inspires this. He inspires Zabarro to be better.
That the Kryptonian issue, it's like at the very end, even though he doesn't want to send them to the Phantom Zone, his last thing on it is like, well, at least there'll finally be some law and order in there.
Yeah.
And then you see them sort of like, they're that's okay. That's their thing. So they can be happy in there as well. Like, it's like.
But like the part where they're like, in this moment, you showed me compassion.
Yeah.
In like, you could have, been
and that's
cruel.
It's another part where Superman's misunderstood, because they're like, why have you not taken over this planet? What is your problem? Why are you sitting here? And and Superman's answer to that isn't even, it's like, well, why would I judge them? Why would I put my morality on a whole race of people just because and that sums up Superman in such a way. It's like, yeah, I could rule this planet, but why? He doesn't even think about that.
He's a humanitarian.
He's just like, well, why would I even judge them? Why would I even, try and do that? It doesn't make any sense. But they don't even comprehend it. Like, to them, they're, it's like instantly, we're just going to take over. They don't even understand why someone with that kind of power would be the way that
they learn from him.
Yeah.
In their moment of like, their moment of weakness, Superman doesn't take advantage of them. He shows them compassion.
Compassion is Superman's greatest superpower.
Yeah, and like, he is kind to them and wants to help them, and like, they suddenly realize the heart of Krypton is in him. Like, they suddenly realize that like all the other like, oh my God, like, yes, like, you have shown us like and in an issue that at the time when I read, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's very deep and like such a like resonant thing of like some of like being like, no, like, you are a person who, yes, when you have power, you do what you wish and you feel so almighty, and now you are weak, and now I have the power, and I'm going to show you compassion and like kindness, and I'm not going to crush you, even though I could, and even though maybe that would be the right thing to do. I'm going to like do the harder thing and like promise you I'll help you later on. You know, like it's.
I think it just goes to, you know, Grant Morrison's idea of, you know, this is why Superman perseveres. You know, it's like, it's not that he can fly and that he has heat vision and he's invulnerable and all those things. It's that he can do all that, but he chooses kindness, and that's inspirational. Like the idea that you have all this power, but you choose kindness, is why he's so influential. Is why 5,000 years from now, there are Supermen that he is inspired. It's why generations of nerds reading Superman comics were inspired by Superman.
It's why people complain about Superman being boring.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it was this, you know, and it's such a weird thing too. Like, I like to read this and sit there and kind of go, Superman's boring. Like, how could you imagine this is the last thing from boring?
Yeah.
It's incredible. You know, it's so action packed and so, but also so challenging in a way, because I feel like so many times in these stories, there's a certain twist that you would expect a comic to make that he doesn't make, because like, that's not what Superman wouldn't do that.
Right.
Superman does this. And it's sort of like, okay. Like, well, that's the twist to the story, is that Superman wouldn't do these things, you know? Like, I mean, it's incredible. And if you were to tell me that, you know, like 20 years from now, this is like the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely tour de force, I'd be like, yeah, like, you killed it. There's multiple issues in here that I'm just like, that's an amazing, like, we haven't talked about it, but the Lois Lane issue when they go to the Fortress of Solitude is also just an incredible comic book. Just like a great story. The way they tell the Jimmy Olsen stories are just an amazing story. Like the way they tell it.
The Jimmy Olsen issue is so fun, and yeah, it's you're just on a sort of redefining thrill ride of who and what Jimmy Olsen is. You know what I mean? Like, I think they did that Jimmy Olsen 12 issue series lately, and that to me, I mean, was such inspired. It had to be inspired by this, because Jimmy Olsen wasn't.
Fraction and Lieber were obviously inspired. But
there was another Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, like one shots that came out a few years before this, and no, the newer stuff is absolutely inspired by
because I don't think there's ever been Jimmy Olsen stories that were told like this, where where Jimmy is sort of his own hero, and not even but just where he's such a personality, and he's sort of this force almost.
He's like his own insane character. He's just like this own like weird, like the way Morrison and Quitely, like he's like his own force of nature almost, in a way that just sort of like encounters Superman, and the combination of them is their own thing. And what Fraction and Lieber do so great is like what this force of nature does, like outside of it, and it's just so funny and so like outlandish. It's just it's great.
Another question. Philip Quick asked, have you guys seen the animated version of All-Star Superman? And if so, what did you guys think about it? I
watched it today.
I have not seen it in a while. I remember watching it. From what I remember, the story's good, but it's like without Quitely's art,
Boom.
You know,
Exactly.
and you just it's such a part of these issues. It's such a part of this story. It's not the same. No other artist, I don't think, could have done it the same way that Quietly does it.
It loses nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this book is a giant volume of nuance. I mean, there's so many little parts. You know, but it's not bad. I'm not saying it's not bad.
No.
Dwayne McDuffie did the screenplay or adaptation of it. I mean, it's a Timverse, technically in the Timverse. But yeah, it doesn't have Quietly's art in it. There are specific scenes that are direct lifts from it.
Does anyone? I mean, we all love Frank Quietly. I've loved Frank Quietly, since the first time I ever saw his stuff. But there's not many artists, I don't think, that can do both huge, amazing, like galactic storytelling and also super subtle, charming moments.
He makes Steve Lombard a doofus. I love that about Frank Quietly. Right? Like he nails both those ends. Like he does. Steve Lombard's hairpiece is on fire, and
that, oh god,
Bizarro world. Like
the one line where when the Kryptonians come to the Daily Planet.
Yeah,
and they're like Superman, and Lombard's like, "Hey man, I got the moves, but I'm not Superman." Yeah. It's like that was so Lombard. That was such a beautiful line.
I know, it's so great. I mean, it's I mean, it's funny, like to think about. I loved this issue, all these stories when they were coming out at the time, but now in hindsight, I'm always like, oh, damn, these are just getting better. This is like one of those things where I'm like, oh, like this is actually like, we joked about this at the start, but like, oh no, like this is one of those things that's gonna last like a long time.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. I mean, Chris, you'd mentioned like, I don't think it's quite up there with something like Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns, just because of its. I don't think it has the sort of shift in influence that those had.
It didn't change the way that comics were made or redefine the character. Yeah.
It is absolutely a magnum opus. I mean, if any creating duo did this, it's 100% at the top of the list, and they're defining work. Because it's Morrison and Quietly, maybe it won't be their defining work, but it's got to be up there as far as 12 issues of like anybody's work. It's as good as anything.
Yeah, it made me really this made me wish that they made a Batman, and they made like a Batman and Superman World's Finest with Frank Quietly, and because like just the part where he's like, how's Batman? You know how Batman is, he's fine. Like just like what would this version of Batman be, where like, and then I thought a lot about their work on Batman and Robin, and like I thought a lot about like the act of like compassion that Batman has for Dick Grayson, and like thinking about like, like what if you made a story about like just like Batman, who's this very damaged person, like his act of true compassion is like, I'm going to save this person, or try to save this person from the thing I went through, and like there's something about that that's so compelling that they seed in this, about like the idea of like, what if every character just did the most compassionate thing, and just like the most like.
I mean, I think some of the better Superman or Batman stories out there have done that, because that was Robin. That was his choice to adopt Robin, was like, he went through what I went through, but I'm gonna try and but I think he was conflicted in that process.
Yeah.
And I think that's what their Batman and Robin was. A lot of the quietly, and Morrison was like, Dick Grayson was kind of like the better Batman.
Yeah,
he was sort of like the less like damaged, like.
But I think that's what that's what Bruce Wayne would have wanted.
Yeah, was like, I'm gonna do this thing to like make this person less. Like, I'm gonna have this moment of compassion. Like the one thing, Batman, the spirit of vengeance, like the thing who has no compassion, like his moment of compassion is Robin. Like, this is like my moment of kindness and like my moment of like redemption.
Do you think that, if you look at a lot of Batman's villains, a lot of his rogues gallery, there's at one point, at least in their origins, there was sort of like a sympathetic nature to a lot of them. And I think that's gotten lost a lot in Batman stories. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like, Batman could be any one of them. He could have been the Joker. He could have been, you go through something tragic and you have a choice.
I always think about like Clayface, such a tragic,
right?
The Moore figure, such like a
Clayface is the character from Harley Quinn for me now. That's how I always want to think of
Mr. Freeze is a sympathetic character.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Going through something tragic, but he's reacting to it in a different way. But I don't think you see Batman ever be that there's times where Batman is compassionate to his villains because he understands that. But I think a lot of times that's lost. I think a lot of writers just don't even think about that. And I think it goes back to the same thing of like our sort of sarcastic nature of looking at these characters and being like, well, it's lame. It's lame to have compassion. It's lame to Superman's lame, or Batman, has to be this dark knight as opposed to a compassionate character or someone that is trying to do what's good, and it's like,
it's corny. It's corny to be compassionate. It's corny to try and let Superman just wants Lex to be good, and he knows it's in him. And that whole issue, Superman just wants Lex to be like, gives him every opportunity to relent and be like not the villain, right? And like we see that as like corny as opposed to like you should punish him. But this Superman is like, I'm gonna give you every chance I can to be good, because that's like what I'm about.
We had talked about earlier how he inspires people, and we see that repeatedly through the series, that the people that he comes in contact with, they leave him better than they were before, or more compassionate, more empathetic. Is that his frustration with Lex? He's like, Lex, just be better.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, because Lex is the only one that he can't reach.
Right.
His influence cannot pierce that ego. He can't get to Lex. That's a great point, Chris.
Yeah, like Lex can't. He inspires everyone else, but Lex can't see that in Superman.
I know there's
Lex
good in you.
All he sees is the obstacle in Superman, as opposed to like the, oh my God, like I should also be compassionate. He just sees like but that's the weakness, right? That's the weakness of humanity. Like within Lex is like, this person who's should inspire me, I only see an obstacle.
Well, it's
like,
jealousy too. It's like he can't possibly look at himself long enough to say, I could learn from him. It's, well, if I had that, this is what I would do. If he wasn't here, this is what I would do. It's all ego and jealousy, and he can never be humble enough to sit there and go, well, I could learn from someone like Superman. And yeah, that's a really great point of like why Lex is such a villain, and he just, and why he frustrates, and yet I think why he also, it's really, oh god, this book is so fucking deep,
right?
Only time, yeah.
But it's also a great idea of like why Superman and Lex are arch rivals, because Lex is the one guy that Superman can't reach, so he would always be gravitated. He would be frustrated, but also fascinated, and also determined to try and break through.
And I love that scene. It's the one time Superman gets angry, right? Where he's like, just like unflappable Superman, who's always like, we'll find the best way to handle this, gets angry at Lex because he's just like, why can't you just not be evil?
Like you can do so
don't
much.
Be a dick.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, it's great. It's incredible. A true feat,
Yeah.
true like artistic feat that like will. It's been a couple of years since I read it, and it's one of those things where like it's interesting because when it first came out, I didn't have kids, and now I have kids and I'm older, and I read it and it resonates much differently for me in ways that it didn't when like I read it the first time.
Sure.
Much more like, I'm like, and also in the sense, like I said earlier, where Morrison, sometimes people kind of lock Morrison into this realm of like very heady stuff. This is so emotionally like tied into reality and mortality, and like there's so much heart to his Superman that's like so apparent everywhere, is how much Superman loves people and like wants to help people.
The
like,
page with the gal who's going to commit suicide. I mean, that's
like
is such. I mean,
Superman's gonna like there's such a like beating heart to his Superman that I think is missing a lot of times from like people's Superman, is like this idea of like, he goes to save the girl who's going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Like
how would another writing and art team have Superman save a girl who's going to jump off of a building?
I mean, like Superman has that, like he's gonna
catch her after she jumped, because that's the action thing to do, and he brings her up and saves her. But Morrison and quietly, he comes and he comforts her and makes himself available for her to,
he doesn't catch her after she jumps. No, I mean, that's a great point. Like
he saves her before that with compassion, right?
Yeah, like he's there and like he hears everything, and like I mean, it's rad. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say that, but like
it's rad. It's rad.
I mean, it's great.
There's
so few things. There's so few things in comics where you read it and you're like, God damn, this is like so great, and it's such like an amazing feat to have made this thing that like when it came out, I was like, this is cool. And now in hindsight, I'm like, this is even cooler. And suddenly I'm like, this is kind of amazing. This is amazing that they made this thing.
It's wine. It keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's such a truth to it, to like you were saying, Sal, about like as the world around us changes, about compassion and about like what that means to like have the kindness towards the people you disagree with, and the like a thing that I could use right?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think all of us, it's like it's hard to empathize with someone that angers you or that you don't understand or that whose view you don't agree with, or it's hard. And that is, I mean, my God, in the last 6 years of our lives here in this country, we've been more polarized as a country than ever, maybe ever since the Civil War, because neither side can look at the other side with any compassion whatsoever. It's all just hatred and anger and malice.
It is an immovable. It's an immovable object and the irresistible force.
Yeah, there's just
a story like that. That's about like just that.
You have to both surrender.
Passion is so like I could use that, I guess, on some. Like it's very like, and I think that's what's so defining for it is like. And it's interesting too in thinking of like in the context of Doom Patrol and thinking about like Morrison being this. I always felt like when I was younger, Morrison was like the high-minded, like complicated continuity weirdo. And now as I get older, I'm like, Morrison's a big softy who like tells these really great stories about like these really heartfelt things.
But there's there's also in these issues, which I love, is there's some weird futuristic sci-fi bizarre shit that he throws in there as well, but it all kind of it just fits so well. It kind of weaves itself into the story where it doesn't overtake it. It's like, oh, I'm going to use a gravity gun. Why did I use a gravity gun? Because it's going to speed up your metabolism, like that kind of shit where it's like, that's great. Very Morrison.
But he's a softie. That's the thing that I've just like discovered in the last couple of years that as I've gotten older is like this guy, he's telling these softie boy stories that it's like I didn't realize it when I was younger.
Chaos magician.
And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Like you're actually telling stories about like real human emotions, and I didn't understand it when I was like 23, and I didn't get what Doom Patrol was about. And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, okay, I get what this like with these
I feel that way. I mean, we talked about Sandman, and it's like the same thing. I read all those issues when I was younger, but now going back and reading them again, and it's like, oh man, they hit me in a different way,
It's great how comics can do that, right?
It is amazing how stories can just you take from them as much as you kind of give into them. You know what I mean? Like you put so much into the story that reflects yourself, and so different parts of your life. It's like
but good comics will let you do that. I mean, we always talk about Watchmen, how on surface level it's just a really good, whodunit murder mystery. But then whenever you start, taking the layers off, it becomes even better. And I think All-Star Superman is that. It's a great superhero story, right?
Yeah.
But it also,
I mean, it's goddamn. I think about the same day I read the All-Star Superman issue where he goes back to meet his dad. I was watching a Doom Patrol episode that also made me tear up. And I was like, Grant Morrison, you son of a bitch. I used to think of you as like this weirdo chaos magician, and now I figured it out. You're actually like clued into human emotions on a level that I didn't understand. And now, because I was watching Doom Patrol second season, I'm like, this is all about dads. This is about making this is all about like
dads and daughters,
and daughters, and it's all about like the things you feel, and like Larry Trainer and his kids, and like I was like, oh man, damn, dude, you got me, you son of in a way that like I'll be fair. Like I was thinking a lot about Morrison and I was like, when I was younger, I always thought of Morrison as like, yeah, like he did all these like interesting things. Now that I'm older and I read those same things over again, I'm always like, God, you son of a bitch. You made me feel like you.
This is why Morrison frustrates me so much.
Is when he
because there's times where he writes as heartfelt, as good of stories as I could ever want in comics.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times where it's just like, what the fuck are you? What is this? What am I reading? What the fuck am I? You know, and it just is so frustrating as a fan. You know, over the years, obviously, you guys have heard me bitch about Grant Morrison and that kind of thing. You know, there's no question he's a brilliant fucking writer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
But it's just like it can be frustrating for me because it's like All-Star Superman and then Multiversity, and it's just like I don't even know what the fuck I'm reading when I'm reading Multiversity or the Seven Soldiers. Like I don't even understand it.
I actually kind of dug Seven Soldiers,
but then he writes, you know, We Three, and he writes All-Star Superman. It's just like, well, you can do this. You can do this a drop of a fucking hat.
You son of a bitch. You wrote the issue where Superman goes back in time to see his dad. And it's a great single issue of a Superman comic, and it's perfectly emotionally attuned to make me cry.
I think we're gonna have to dive into like Tom's relationship with his father at some point here because that issue is obviously touched on some emotion.
I haven't read it in a long time, and I read it and I was like, oh fuck, like damn, Grant, you got like.
Do you guys see or think that this is it's a Christ-like story?
I don't know. I've never equated Superman with Christ. Like
how many robots
did Christ have?
How many robot helpers did he have?
Was there a dozen? Was there 12?
And the number 7 one was a traitor.
Yeah. I mean, I just think
I don't know the Bible that well.
Well, no, I'm just it kind of checks some boxes if you're looking for it.
I mean, I think like a lot of that symbolism in the Morrison stuff sort of works, but also as like I get older, like I said, like I think Morrison is such a softie in not a bad way. But like in like, like as I get older, I'm like, oh fuck, like you get like something I didn't understand when I was younger, and now I'm starting to get like what both the humor and like the emotional resonance and like the like what it means to be important to someone and what it means to like have compassion and kindness and like to like not use your powers to crush someone, right? Like that. So much of the Morrison stuff feels like that's what the stories are about, is like, what does it mean when I decide not to like destroy you? You know, like, I mean, that seems dumb to say.
No, but it's the difference between, I mean, and I've said this before, it's like anytime one of my friends is going to have children, like for the first time, I always say the same thing. It's like, I can't tell you what it's going to be like. You can only experience it yourself. Like there's no explaining it. There's no way that I could tell you what it's going to be, but your life is going to be before you have children and then your life after you have children. And there's nothing like that, because like what you're saying is the idea of you have now this other life form that you've created, that you're responsible for, that you have for a long time ultimate power over, and you have to understand that responsibility of that. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, there's really there's very little power in everyday life of a human being. There's less, there's very few things that are less powerful than being a parent, in the sense of you're with someone every day, you're guiding them, you're showing them, you're teaching them, you're trying to raise someone, and you can be a really shitty parent very easily, or you could be a good parent, and it's harder to be a good parent than it is to be a shitty one. And I think that's what Superman is all about. He's sort of he's the world's dad, and he's taken on that responsibility. And so when he makes those tough decisions, the difference between being 20 something years old and not having kids and then being in your 30s and having children, I think is, it's life shifting, and you see it from a different perspective where you now understand that responsibility that maybe Superman holds, and that nobody else is telling him. There's no rule. You know what I mean? Like, as a parent, there's no, like, nobody's paying attention to what you're doing day in and day out for the most part. As a parent, you just have to figure it out, and you have to make the decision to either be a shitty parent or be a good parent.
It's ironic because I have to leave because my kids are yelling at me right
now.
Dad, you have to put me to bed.
There you go. There's your decision.
There's my decision. They're up way too late. I'm going to put them to bed.
They're on vacation.
They're on vacation.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. That's what happens. It's life. They're staring at me.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you had the feels tonight, Tom.
I did have the feels tonight. Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, you did it.
You got him. You got him, guys.
You got me. On the train. You got me.
All right. Well, Tom, we'll let you get off and tuck the kids in, and we'll finish up business here.
All right. I'll see you guys next week. Love you. Compassion to all of you.
Compassion, kindness.
Go
hug your kids.
Yeah, hug your kids. Hug the people you love. Yeah, try and be kind.
Be good.
Don't always do the fastest, easiest thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Peace.
See you, brother.
See ya.
All right. Now it's just us. We finally got rid of the dead weight.
Right. Now let's dive into this thing.
Let's really get into this. We got another hour.
Panel by panel, all 12 issues, dissecting them.
No.
I do want to make a point. I really feel like this is one of the few pieces of work like this kind of volume where I don't feel like there was a wasted word on any page. It just felt very masterclass.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's almost like a benefit to Morrison to sort of just be like him wanting to pay homage and sort of write a love letter where he dials back some of his more wild thinking, for whatever reason, and just shows how good of a fucking writer he is. And then Quitely, being able, one is a master, but then given a script and given the free reign and giving, sort of a partner to work with, where huge ideas, and I'm sure just, kind of take it where you want and do what you want, and Quitely being the master that he could.
Quiet moments.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Both. I mean, but that's what I mean by, being given a script to really be able to stretch and do all sorts of different things and show how great of an artist
his character.
I mean, he's one of the best. He's one of my
emote so much. I mean, before Clark, fumbles and saves someone, making it look like his clumsiness, there's always a little visual cue in the panel before where you see Superman is the only person that knows what's really happening, and there's this little visual cue that you get with it, and it's perfect.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful collection of comics. If you somehow read this and you think Superman is lame, then you're just never going to be a Superman fan. And honestly, it's like this to me, it's like, go fuck yourself, Zack Snyder, and all the Zack Snyder fans that think that's Superman, that Zack Snyder has any fucking clue.
Those are the people that root for Homelander.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, just fuck off. You know, this is what Superman is supposed to be. This is you know, who Superman is, and you know, it almost makes me laugh. It wasn't so fucking sad for the people that, you know, kind of root for Superman to kill and think that that's in any fucking way, shape, or form representative of
the core of that character.
Yeah, of almost 100 years of that character. It's like you're fucking clueless. You're just fucking clueless. So, but yeah, this to me is, you know, as good as it gets of Superman stories. You know, it's good
defining for me. It's, you know, this, you know, Alan Moore's Man of Tomorrow,
whatever happened.
That's if you're Burns,
I would say this is more enjoyable than Moore's.
Yeah,
I mean, Moore's whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is a great story, but I think this is a more enjoyable read than that.
As far as, like, you know, top Superman stories that I would pull off the shelf and read again, I mean, this is number one, you know, out of, you know, kind of those other ones, you know.
The run. What's the Tim Sale? Up in the Sky, or Superman Blue? Is it Superman Blue?
Superman Blue. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
That is, I think, is up there for me. But yeah, this is one of the best. I mean, really is just some of the best comics work, superhero comics work out there.
Yep. Yeah. Two of the best in the business who are actually better together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Quietly is a fucking master. I mean, he really is just unbelievable. It's just kind of unreal how good he is, and has been for years. And yet I don't know that people talk about him all that much. I mean, he's not as prolific as maybe he could be. He doesn't do ongoing kind of things, but goddamn, every time he does something, it's special.
Yeah. It's I almost, you know, he's unique, but he's like on the spectrum of artists. He's somewhere between like Kevin McGuire and Mobius.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good spectrum to be on,
right? You know, he does he emotes and does the funny and the exaggerated, like that fucking snarl that Luther has in that one panel. You probably remember it. I mean, that is like that's Kevin McGuire-esque cartooning, but it has that just like weird kind of not quite reality that he puts on everything.
There's also, and I don't even, I mean, I almost thought it was an homage, and it may have been, but there's a scene where when Lex has his powers and he gets hit by a car and the car like explodes around him, it felt very much like what's his name? Hard Boiled.
Darrow.
Yeah, it felt very much like Hard Boiled. It felt like an homage to the cover of Hard Boiled #1.
Yeah,
where that car is just exploding and
you're seeing like actually like drawn like bolts.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I mean, like I said, there's that part of him too. Like he can do incredibly detailed stuff. And it's just kind of crazy. Yeah.
He's near the top of the list for me. It's you know, working artist. He's fantastic, and this I think will be. Tom said, you know, I don't know if this is their magnum opus. You know, I hope not. I hope they do more stuff like this. But you know, it's at this point. I mean, you've got one in the Hall of Fame. So
yeah, right. I don't know what I would say is better than this that they've done together or even separately. I don't know. I mean, what else, you know, I know Animal Man for Morrison is certainly one of those books that people talk about, but you know, The Authority, We Three, Flex Mentallo, But yeah, this is as good as anything, like I said, anyone else does this 12 issues and it's their magnum opus. So I don't know. Yeah, it may be the best thing that they've ever done together, or separately.
It's dope. All right. Well, I'm sure everyone stopped listening because Tom left, so we should probably just wrap it up.
Drunken Tom, just
rambling. Had the feels. He's like, guys,
he did. He was very emotional.
To bring you to tears on the Chicago CTA, it has to be very, very moving. I've been there before. All right, so this has been our trade talk. Real quick, because we are going to wrap up. I couldn't top this, so I'm going to go kind of in the other direction, because anything I've followed this up with is.
So you're going to go with something really shitty?
Not shitty, but definitely just more comedic in tone. And
I thought you were going to take JLA Earth 2 as the
that's great. But let's give Quietly and Morrison a break for a month here. She-Hulk just premiered on Disney Plus, so I want to go back and read She-Hulk Volume 1: Law and Disorder by Charles Soule.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's what I think a lot of this series is going to be based on.
Well, it's called Law and Order. So
attorney at law.
Yeah. And he is a lawyer, right? Charles Soule, I believe, is the lawyer.
Yeah.
Soule. Well, there you go. There's our next. I'm not as thrilled about that pick, but
what am I going to fucking follow up All-Star Superman with?
Another classic. You got to pick a classic. If you're going to pick She-Hulk, why not the Byrne She-Hulk? Like that was the defining She-Hulk in my opinion.
I really like Charles Soule, and I wanna see his take on She-Hulk.
All right. I don't know that I've read it, so there we go. That's our next book of the month. Book of the month. Book of the 2 weeks.
Trade talk. So there you go. So She-Hulk Volume 1: Law and Disorder. If you want to contact us, email us, info@aroundcomics. We love getting questions about stuff. Love the activity on the live stream tonight, guys. Thanks for chiming in.
Yeah,
had some discussion between them, which was great. So you
getting we're getting a lot of, I don't know what's going on. Well, I think it was the Sandman episode seemed to get a lot of like Twitter activity. We had a shit ton of like people retweeting that episode and just like liking and sharing that episode. So thank you everybody that shared that. Please share all of our episodes. We love when, if you like an episode, please share it on Twitter or Facebook, just so other people, it's a competitive market out here for comic book podcasts. So any help is appreciated for sure.
Yeah. And if you're a new listener, welcome. Hope you enjoyed it. We usually go around an hour on these, but hey, we're talking about a modern classic, so we went a little bit longer. Also, if you are a new listener, you should know about our Patreon. If you want to throw a few shekels our way, you can get some bonus content by going to patreon.com/aroundcomics. Some of that extra content is ACTV, which Sal and I talk about geek culture and in general TV and movies and other stuff. That's every week, and you get that for being a Patreon.
And speaking of that, I want to throw out there, we get a lot of people contacting us through email or through Facebook, that kind of thing, like promoting their independent books or their Kickstarters. And to be honest, we don't like technically review books, like we don't take books for submission to then review them. It's just not what we really do as a show. But
there was a time, but not now.
There was a time. We don't really do that any longer. So, but I feel bad that, it's like there's a lot of creators out there that are trying to promote their work and that kind of a thing. But I want to maybe try and do something like once a month of talk about an independent book that maybe I'll just do on our Patreon or something, just to sort of help people out a little bit, because I do feel bad for like independent creators, and that was kind of where we kind of started the show years and years and years ago, was a lot of independent books. We like talking about independent books. At this point, we just
that Jeff Lemire guy,
yeah, Jason Aaron, Ed Brubaker, all those guys that little indie guys. Yeah. We really liked helping out. So so send me your submissions. Maybe I'll pick one a month and do a Patreon review or commentary of your book. But here's the caveat. I'm not going to be nice. I will be honest. I will tell you what I think about your book. So it's not going to necessarily be just a promotion of your work. If you want me to
be confident before you submit.
If you want me to review your book, I will review your book, but it is going to be a review, and I will tell you what I think about it. So good or bad, that's what's going to happen. So there you go. If you feel confident in your work, go ahead and send it, and maybe I'll do like one a month and talk about
Sal's getting all Alex Toth.
Well, you know what I mean? At this point, it's like it doesn't do you any good for me to sit here and blow smoke up your ass if your comic is not up to snuff. And I've read enough and studied enough and seen enough and talked to enough creators, and it's like maybe I could actually help someone, and so if you want more of a critique than a promotion, I'll be happy to do that. We're not here to promote anybody's work. That's just not what we do.
No, we're here to talk comics.
We're here to talk comics. But if you want me to critique your work, I'll be happy to do that and give you my honest opinion, good or bad, whatever it is.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a convention and stood next to a working professional artist as they do a portfolio review?
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah,
it's fascinating. And
how I watched do that? Neil Adams.
Yeah. I bet that was brutal.
Oh, yeah, fucking brutal. You did not want to go to Neil Adams' table and ask for a portfolio review if you were expecting like monkey shines. You were gonna get the fucking cold, hard truth.
Yeah,
and that's what you need, though. I mean, that's the reality of it. Is like, yeah, it doesn't do you any good.
I think he even had a personal rule that he was gonna just savage someone on their first time coming to them, and if they came back, then he would.
Then you got the sand. You got the sand. You got what it takes, kid.
Yeah, and I think I've read. I may be mistaken. I feel like I read or heard that was part of his screening process, especially whenever he was running the studio. Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's
if you don't have thick skin, you're not going to make it.
I saw Phil Hester give a review, and he was like the perfect teacher that you want, because he was very firm in what wasn't working, but also very positive about what was working. Said, this is what you need to work on, keep at it, and come back to me again, and I'm interested to see how you grow. It's like, oh wow, thanks, Dad. I mean, he was great with it.
I remember it was right before we started doing Around Comics. I went to Wizard World, and I did I sat in on Phil's. He was doing a panel. It wasn't a panel, but it was a class on how to draw comics, and it was one of the best that I'd ever seen. He was one of the best teachers. Phil's just fantastic.
You want to talk about maybe an all-time underrated artist in comics?
How about just an underrated dude? Like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, just as a guy, just one of the best. One of the
first pro interview on the show, way back when.
One of the best guys ever.
Oh yeah, yep, heart of gold. All right, that'll do it for this one. I got nothing else. You, Sal?
I'm good.
All right. We will be back next Thursday, regular Around Comics, no trade talk. That'll be 2-3 weeks from now. So we'll do that next Thursday. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. In the meantime,
in between time,
we'll be everywhere in
and around
around
comics.
Whew.